The following is a sports narrative special presentation.
And the pick is finally in. It's currently being brandished by some walkie-talkied individual, taking it up to the commissioner's podium. A big, humongous pick.
Now, to find out whose name is on that card, here is the commissioner, ready to make history.
With the first pick.
And welcome to another fine episode of the Draft Narrative Show. I am your host, Jeff Bowers. You can find me on Twitter at Sports Narrative, and of course you can find this show always live streaming on youtube.com/thesportsnarrative, and eventually at the24media.com and on Abundant TV, where we will hope to have all of this stuff up and running. So today we have an absolutely jam-packed show, as our last show unfortunately bogged down a little bit. We got a little bit behind, so now we're going to have to play some massive catch-up, and along the ride with me to do that today is my good friend Darren Boyd. What's up, buddy?
Oh, free agency's stalled to a crawl. I'm ready to persevere to the draft in Detroit, and excited for the final 12 teams we got to recap, or whatever we got to recap.
We got 20 to get through, so we got to hustle. We've got
20.
12. We've got
well,
12
we don't have
so
time to
far.
talk to me. Let's go.
That's right. We gotta hit it. So news of the week, the last couple of days, L'Jarius Sneed traded by the Kansas City Chiefs, a move that we all kind of knew was coming. He goes for what? Just a third-round pick, right? Going to Tennessee.
Yeah, I know for a fact my Dolphins were involved, but they don't have a third-round pick, so take them out of that. Now you have no salary cap, but that's okay.
Well, that is a little bit of a problem when you get to that point. So yes, absolutely. All right. Well,
It's like my bank account, that's a whole nother conversation.
No doubt. All right. Well, a quick recap of what we did on our last episode is basically what we're doing is going through every team and pointing out their biggest need that's left, right? They've addressed some of these needs in free agency. Ideally, what you'd like to be able to do is walk into the draft, have most of the holes filled, and, you can take best player available. Very rarely is that the case. So we went through very quickly. Darren, I'm going to rapid fire these at you, and you tell me if you have any grievances or issues with any of these. Going in alphabetical order, we started with the Arizona Cardinals. We found their two biggest needs are at wide receiver and cornerback, and with 2 first-round picks, they should easily be able to address those. Sound good?
Agree.
The Atlanta Falcons, we have edge and cornerback, and they could go either way with that early pick. I could easily see a trade down from them as well. They might stick and pick Dallas Turner, but, man, it feels like the momentum is leaning towards cornerback at that spot too.
Yeah, I'm not a big Dallas Turner fan. I should be, but I'm not. Watching film, I'm just like, he's a man to me, but I get you.
Interestingly for me, he is edge 2.
Yes.
I have Jared Verse as my edge 1, and I have Latu as my edge 3, but all of them are like right there. I mean, they are just within spitting distance of each other. So, the Baltimore Ravens.
We just said.
Oh, you broke up just a little bit there. Sorry about that. The Baltimore Ravens.
Go ahead.
You had wide receiver, edge rusher, and O-line. The interesting thing about the Ravens is, they lose 3/5 of their starting O-line last year, and you would think, oh my gosh, they're gonna be terrible. No, man, they had so much depth. It's why they could afford to trade Morgan Moses away, because you had that wonderful pick in Andrew Voorhees, who, remember, that was the guy who had torn his ACL while at the combine. And then, but he still did the bench press, right? You remember this story from last year? And basically sits. He plays a little bit late in the season at guard for them, and I think he's going to slide right into right tackle, and basically they got him for a steal, another stash, drafting an injured player and stashing him just like they did with Ojabo. Man, it's twice now the Ravens have capitalized on that.
Best organization in football, hands down, even though they don't win Super Bowls.
Yeah, no doubt. So we've got, okay, so next we have the Buffalo Bills. Wide receiver, defensive tackle, and, of course, safety. They have addressed safety, but not well. I mean, I don't know what you think about Mike Edwards, but he doesn't blow my skirt up at all. The Carolina Panthers, we said basically everything, but predominantly wide receiver and edge rusher, I think, are the two biggest needs on the board there for them. Let's see, the Chicago Bears, obviously quarterback, which will be addressed with the #1 pick. We have that confirmed with the Justin Fields trade to Pittsburgh. And after that, edge rusher and wide receiver, again, the choice they're going to be making with their second first-round pick there of, do you take a Dunze if he falls to you? You did get Keenan Allen. You still have DJ Moore. Or do you go ahead and take edge rusher, which they do need another complement opposite of Montez Sweat? And if Dallas Turner falls in your lap, why wouldn't you take it?
Agree at #9. Good call.
The Cincinnati Bengals, interestingly, we've had right tackle penciled in fact, I believe when we did that show last week, we were like, oh, well, right tackle, obviously. Well, they go out and sign Trent Brown. Now, I don't know if that solves the problem, but I think it's going to be an answer for them. So then you got to look at cornerback and then wide receiver, ? Because there's still talk that they're trying to trade T. Higgins, and I know the Patriots are still sniffing around.
I think it's a draft day trade that's coming down for sure.
It's very possible. Very possible. I think that'll be very interesting to see what the Bengals decide to do and how far does T. Higgins get you up the board. I mean, they're picking at 18. Yeah, that'll be fascinating.
I would not give a first-round pick for him.
No, I wouldn't think so. Maybe a pick swap type of thing. I mean, if you're
I agree.
Let's say if you're a team like the Bears or like the Jets and you're sitting at 10, you say swap 10 for 18. Maybe.
I think that's still too rich, but we'll dispute that on another show. Go.
For sure. The Cleveland Browns, they've solved a lot of their problems. They've had a really busy offseason. Linebacker and cornerback is what I have, but they don't pick till pick 78, I think. So they have some time to figure it out.
Deshaun Watson, thank you very much.
Yes. The Dallas Cowboys, interior offensive line, obviously both guard and center for them. Wide receiver, wide receiver 3, and linebacker.
Breaking news on that, by the way. Jerry Jones today confirmed that Tyler Smith is kicking out the left tackle. So that may change up the draft board for them.
Nah, not too bad. I mean, I think we knew that. Obviously they're probably looking center/guard with that first pick.
TJ.
Yeah, so Graham Barton or Powers Johnson, I think, are both in that.
Graham Barton's my boy. He's going to the Dolphins, but we'll talk about that later.
There we are. The Denver Broncos, again, a team that could kind of say everything, but we'll say quarterback. Yes, although I don't know if we're taking one at 12. Maybe J.J. McCarthy slides close enough. Wide receiver and then D-line. The Detroit Lions, wide receiver, cornerback, given the events of this week with their starting #1 corner totally on the lam, O.J. Simpson style this week. That was fun.
Yeah, no one wants him, so there's a lot to that behind-the-scenes story, but we don't speculate on the sports narrative draft.
Yeah, Cam Sutton. Now, they have addressed corner. Obviously, they went and made the trade for Carlton Davis from the Bucks. They signed Amik Robinson from the Raiders, so they've got some guys, but, I mean, are you going to...
That's their... one position they had drafted. What was the kid's name a couple years ago with the top pick, and he's bounced around the league. Acuna.
Jeff Acuna. Yeah, in fact, Jeff Akuta is down there in Houston, which is going to be our first team kicking off, seeing if he can resurrect. So
he actually balled out there.
So he was with Atlanta last year, did okay, and then he's with Houston this year. So we'll see. Also safety with the Lions. And our final team, the Green Bay Packers, again, interior offensive line, linebacker, and cornerback are all places that the Packers could go with that early pick. All right, Mr. Boyd. We are going to roll through some teams, again, rolling alphabetically. We are starting with the Houston Texans. Do you want to start off? You want me to?
That's all you.
All right. Well, let us start with then the Houston Texans, as I will bring up their cool little old school logo. Although actually that's the Dallas Texans, so deal with it. I guess, do you have the Oilers on here? Surely I have the Oilers on here. No, I don't believe I do. All right. Well, that's what we're using. Nobody knows the difference anyway. Okay, so
Yep, only
Houston,
you and I.
yes. Houston this offseason, obviously the trade for Joe Mixon has been big. They've really tried to bolster the defensive line, getting Daniil Hunter from the Vikings. They signed both Danico Autry and Fotu Fatukasi and Tim Settle. Man, they just got big dudes up front to shut down the middle of that defensive line. Now, you still need a little bit of pass rush there, so that is a place they could go if they wanted somebody with a little more pass rush at the D tackle spot. They signed Aziz Al-Shahir to play linebacker next to Christian Harris, and then at the aforementioned Jeff Okudah and C.J. Anderson. They're just signing all the former first-round busts at cornerback, trying to fill in opposite of Mike Stingley. They could use another wide receiver, though, kinda.
No.
I mean, they've got Noah Brown, they've got Robert Woods, they've got John Mechie. They've got bodies there. The offensive line was pretty good last season. Like I said, they addressed running back, and this is why you saw the Texans trade out with the Vikings and trade out of the first round.
I was kind of stunned they got rid of their young, or they let their young DN go to. He went to the Vikings ultimately, and then of course they got Hunter. But
yeah, Grenard,
they're going to win now mode with Stroud. I mean, my God, he balled out last year. I mean, you got to put them in the top 5 in the AFC right now.
Yeah, you really do, and like I said, they've had themselves a very good offseason. I would say that weapons for Stroud, I think, is going to be at a premium there. So I think you look in, they trade into that early to mid-second round. I think that's a place where they could definitely try to address, some of those wide receivers. Is that middle of the second round is very rich with wide receivers. All right, the Indianapolis Colts. Do you want to fire away at this, or do you want me to just keep rolling?
Well, the Colts have had a pretty solid offseason. It's all about getting the quarterback back after last year. He flashed for a little bit, got hurt.
Yep, Anthony Richardson.
They seem to have a good game plan in place.
They signed Joe Flacco as the backup. He
always balls out.
The ageless
until
one.
The playoffs.
The Colts are fascinating. That's a team, all they've done basically this entire offseason is re-sign their own, right? They brought back Grover Stewart. Their one signing really was, besides Flacco, was Raekwon Davis. And pretty much they're just running it back, which is
they got Pittman to a huge deal.
Yeah, the only one they haven't re-signed yet is Julian Blackmon, and I fully expect that they will. But as you said, yeah, they re-signed Michael Pittman. They still have, Anthony Richardson's coming back, so they're basically running it back. For me, I think another wide receiver to complement Pittman. The Alec Pierce experiment just really hasn't worked out the way they want it to. So I think you could definitely look at some wide receiver and some more weapons for Anthony Richardson. And then on defense, cornerback 2, they were in the finals there trying to trade for L'Jarius Sneed and ultimately got beat out by the Titans. So I think cornerback and wide receiver are definitely the places for the Indianapolis Colts. All right. And the Colts are like the most boring team this whole offseason, I would say. So, at least the Cowboys, you have something to talk about because, even though they haven't done much, it's still something to talk about. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. All right, next up, staying in the same division, as we got 3 in a row there, the Jacksonville Jaguars, as we pull up their original logo here. Boop.
Oh, old school.
Yep, love it. All right, so the Jags signed most of the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, they did.
Mitch Morris at center, which I think was a good get there. Gabe Davis at wide receiver, less good. I don't know that Gabe Davis replaces.
He flashes 3 games a year, but that's about it.
Well, I would say the guy who departed from that spot did about the same. So, you know, at least they didn't hand him that much money. So, yeah, I mean, they brought back Ezra Cleveland. They still have their depth at
Your
tackle.
beloved.
Yeah, that was a guy I was pretty high on. They did sign Eric Armstead. I thought that was a really good signing for their defensive front.
I do agree.
And they did sign Darnell Savage at one of the safety spots, so that helps there.
I mean, with the last name is Savage, you better be a bad, you know what? We can't cuss on the radio, but yes.
Exactly. Cornerback, I think, is definitely their biggest need on the board. You've got Tyson Campbell, but not much else. They signed Ronald Darby, which, oof, you don't want him out there that much. Oh, and you've got, obviously, Josh Allen on the franchise tag. So I would say wide receiver still. They did sign Devin Duvernay, but none of those guys really helped me out that much. There was the trade for Mac Jones. I mean.
Yeah, you forgot that just for a second. And by the way, Trevor Lawrence, who was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck, meh. I mean, we're getting into the point of time where we got to question, all right, are you going to take it to the next level, buddy, or are you just a guy? And so far, I'm not ready to anoint him as a top 5 or 10 quarterback yet.
Now, I will say he's the best quarterback in that class, but that's not saying much. I mean, that's a real low bar right now.
But go ahead.
Yeah, that is a super low bar right now. So, my goodness. All right. Well, yeah. So I would say cornerback and wide receiver. And possibly, yeah, I would say definitely that. And then Evan Ingram's been okay. I was going to say tight end maybe, but they signed Dearness Johnson away from the Browns because the Tank Bigsby experiment, boy, that didn't go well. That didn't age well. So
nope.
So yeah, I think the Jags are looking like a team much like last year that's going to hang around, win anywhere from 7 to 9 games, and maybe squeak in, maybe not. All right. The Kansas City Chiefs, the defending champs, and their very offensive old school logo. So, I mean, you signed Marquise Brown. Is that enough at wide receiver? I mean, it was enough last year with Rashee Rice.
Well, you win a Super Bowl. I mean, we can't question it, but Marquise Brown's the biggest tease in the history of Oklahoma football, but that's beside the point.
I mean, the biggest need right now, quite honestly, is that left tackle spot. As Donovan Smith left, Wanya Morris is currently slated to start in that spot, and I don't think that's going to happen unless they move Jawan Taylor over. So, I think the O-line is definitely the biggest need for them there. Retaining Chris Jones, you did just trade away Snead, so cornerback is obviously going to be a thing as well, although, the Spagnuolo defense has never really prioritized cornerbacks. So
that is correct.
Yeah.
Good call.
So, I think that'll be interesting. Did they lose? Willie Gay left as well. I don't remember where he went, but I'm pretty sure he left town for New Orleans.
That's just one of those organizations that just doesn't care. Like, you want to go? Cool. I'll bring in 2 other guys to replace.
They'll have Charles Omenihu back, because he wasn't there for the playoff run. And, yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. Dude, when you got that guy at the top, it's hard to argue. But I think they definitely are going to need some help. I think you could definitely see a tackle there at the back end of the first round.
And a very, very, very loaded tackle class.
Yeah, no doubt. But, when you're picking 32nd at some point, you got to do something. So
it'd be nice for our teams to pick 32nd one day, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, I mean, you could always trade back. That's pretty much the only way we're getting there. All right. Despite the fact that this says
so, if I trade back from 21 to 32, does that mean I won the Super Bowl?
It's as close as we might get for a while. All right. Even though
this
this says
probably
Oakland,
in my lifetime.
We are talking about the Vegas Raiders. The Raiders. you're contractually obligated to say it that way at least once when talking about this team. The
Now, what do they
Raiders.
do at quarterback? Are they going to stick with the Aiden, whatever his name
Aiden O'Connell
is?
and
I mean, my
Gardner
gosh.
Minshew is what's on deck, brother. So
Whew.
you've got, and look at running back. You've got Zamir White and Alexander Madison.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Jacobs left to the Packers, which kind of stunned us.
Oh, here's a name. Here's a blast from the past. The current starting right guard for the Vegas Raiders is DJ Fluker.
Oh, one of our beloveds. I think I wrote a piece on him in our draft guide way back in 2012 or 2013.
Yeah, that didn't work. That didn't age well either.
No.
Man.
Don't ever look at our draft guide, by
Now,
the way, fans.
look, defensively,
we were just getting started.
Defensively, you still need another compliment to Max Crosby, but Christian Wilkins, Tyree Wilson, and Max Crosby up front is mighty fine.
Very salty.
Yeah, I like that. They signed Jack Jones away from the Patriots, and they're very high on Jacorian Bennett now. Okay, hopefully, maybe. He didn't do much last year. So now, look, the thing with the Raiders is obviously needs include, as you mentioned, quarterback, offensive line, definitely at right guard, right tackle. They need some more help at wide receiver. They have basically Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, and Trey Tucker, and end of list.
Gosh.
So yeah, they're needing some help up there as well. This is the thing.
Thanks, Ruggs.
So Antonio Pierce was a coach on the Arizona State team that had Jaden Daniels. I think if Jaden Daniels can get past Washington, and hell, we're hearing now that Washington's entertaining trade, I think they would absolutely sell out to go get Jaden Daniels if they